Hey guys, welcome back for another video. In today's cook, we are talking pork chops. So in previous cook videos, we talked about steaks, but today I want to talk about pork. So in the US, we have a lot of grades for beef, like we have select, choice, prime, and we don't really necessarily have that for pork, but we do have different breeds. You might have heard of Duroc before. A lot of it comes from the US. It's prized on its really well marbling. From what I was doing my research, it's one of those hogs or those breeds that are a little bit easier to take care of, so they tend to breed really well. So what I wanted to really explore is, how much of a difference does the breed of the hog matter to the end product? Yesterday I went to my local butcher shop and they had some amazing chops, and I specifically asked for a pork chop that was closer to the shoulder instead of the loin because I wanted to have a little bit more of that fat cap on top. So for comparing it to beef, I wanted to find kind of like that ribeye with a really nice cap on top of it, instead of going on the other side that's closer to a loin where the cap is pretty thin and you have a really big eye in the center of it. So we'll be comparing something that I got from my local butcher shop to something that comes in a pack that looks similar to this. All right, so first, let's take a look at this one right here. This one is actually called assorted pork chop, so it doesn't really have any indication of where specifically it's coming from, but I wanted to get one that had a thicker cap like this first chop did. And to give you guys an idea of what we're working with, this pack altogether was $2.99 a pound, and it's about 3 pounds of pork in this pack right here. So it's a lot of pork chop here. So this is coming from a local farm not too far from here, and this one is $12 a pound, so it's almost 4 times the price, and this one's about 1.25 pounds of chop. But if you take a look at this is freaking amazing. The cap right there, you can see it, the eye right here, and with the bone. And again, I got this one on a bone on, so I wanted to make sure the ones that come in the sorter pack had something similar. Look how thick it is. This is definitely a portion for 2 or 3 people. This is a lot of pork chop. Also, this is a bone-in pork chop. Why don't we call ribeyes bone-in beef chops? Or why don't we call this a pork steak instead of a pork butt being sliced? If you guys know why, put it in the comment section down below. All right, so these are 2 pork chops that we're gonna be comparing. This is the farm raised, and this is, I guess I wanna say a commodity raised pork. But obviously the thickness is way different. So in terms of preparation, this one right here is gonna be one that we're going to reverse sear, because I want to make sure this is cooked all the way, and I don't want to char the outside too much while the inside's still cold. This one, because it's so thin, this one's going to just go straight over the coals, kind of the same time we sear up this one right here. The other thing that you're going to notice about these steaks, that when they come from the butcher shop, they're going to scrape off all the surface to make sure there's no debris on top of it when they use a bandsaw. This is the good side right here, but if I flip it over, it still has all that debris that hasn't been scraped off of it yet. So what I'm gonna do is, before I throw this on, I'm gonna just take a spoon and just kind of scrape off the surface of this pork steak. Pork chop. Pork steak? I don't know. I'm gonna scrape this thing down. This usually comes from like this bone right here that's been chipped off, so sometimes the debris from these bones or just that bandsaw just kind of cutting through it too quickly. It's just kind of best to always make sure you do this. The ones at the bottom are usually the ones that are the worst. So, just because the one at the top looks great doesn't mean that the one at the bottom is going to be perfect. All right, so after scraping down 5 more of these pork chops, that's a lot. And obviously you should dump it as you kind of go, but this is just kind of give you an idea that it's the little things, right? I talk about the little things, and scraping things down is also important. So again, this is hopefully one of these things that you don't have to worry about as much when you go to other places that, are smaller batch and they have the time to take care of little things like this. So just like we did with all the steak tests before, we're just gonna simply season it with some salt and pepper. And with this one, we're gonna make sure that the top of the surface right here is gonna almost look white, because this is a very thick chop right there. And with this one being the Diamond Crystal, with the salt is a little bit smaller, again, even though it looks like there's a lot on there, the salt crystal is a lot smaller than something like a Morton's kosher salt, where it's a lot more coarse, so it's not going to be necessarily as salty. Because this is super thick also, We're gonna make sure we get salt all over that side as well. There's nothing worse than getting a perfectly cooked piece of meat and it tasting not as good as it should because there's not enough salt on it. And with this one, we'll do some cracked fresh black pepper instead of the 16 mesh that's been ground a while ago, just to give it a little more pop with the fresh ground black pepper. And honestly, as I'm doing this right now, I just realized this pepper's probably been here a long time too, so it probably would have been easier to use a 16 mesh, but hey, we're here anyway. I'm flipping this with a glove. Don't want to get in trouble with YouTube commenters. There you go. We got the sides peppered up as well. All right, we got this pork chop all seasoned up. We're gonna reverse sear this on our S&S grill. Starting off with some coals from the last cook. Yep, it's easy as that. To be honest with you, the fire starters are one of my favorite things to use. Alright, so we got this pork chop on and we got a thermometer going in right now. So again, we're reaching for 135 internal. We're gonna have the bone side toward the fire just because I don't want this cap area right here to get overcooked because we want that to be nice and juicy. And we'll check on this in about 45 minutes. Alright, so we're catching it right at the right time, about 136. We said 135, and that's good. And this is what our pork chop is looking like right now. So you can see that fat's got some really, really nice color on there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this pork chop off for now and let it kind of stop cooking. I'm gonna put it on a cooling rack, and then we're gonna add some more coals and get this really, really ripping hot because we're a little bit low on coals at the moment. Again, just like the big chop, I'm gonna season this up. But we're not gonna make this surface quite as dramatic in terms of how much salt that we put on there because it is a much smaller chop. I'm gonna do another chop for the next video that I'm gonna put out. Stay tuned and make sure you click that bell notification to know when this video will come out. Hint, hint, like, subscribe, click the bell notification, please. I don't have a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks helping brother out. All right, let's start off with the main event. And kind of like what I do with my steak, if it has a nice fat cap on it, I'm always gonna start with the fat cap side because I wanna make sure I render out this part as much as possible before I sear off all the other sides, and then maybe it gets too much, and then I don't wanna overcook it because I'm worried about rendering that fat at the end. And also, it should give us a nice kind of flare up, a nice smoke flavor as that fat hits that fire and starts dripping down. Cue that Guga music. I don't have it though. That's what you want. You want some nice color. Ooh, it looks burnt on camera. Promise you, it's not burnt. I promise. I promise. All right, now that we got that fat kind of rendered down, you can see how it kind of squeezed down quite a bit, even just from that very, very short period of time. All right, now let's sear for sides. All right, I'm gonna flip it every 20 seconds for right now, just so that I don't get one side being charred way too much. Another 20 seconds. You can see that color starting to build up already right there. All right, now I'm gonna worry about getting this fat a little bit off the fire, so I'm gonna get this fat cap off over the coals right there so I can really focus on getting some color on this kind of loin part right here. Yeah, that time right there, you can see that flames are definitely way less dramatic because we didn't have that super, super fatty side overheat. Now we can just get a really, really nice crust on that pork chop. When you're working with coals or live fire, remember, you can always, always, always control the temperature based off on what type of protein you got, what's dripping on top of there, where your coals are. There's not that many coals over here. There's none over here, which is why I'm leaving the fat side over there again. And really, you can gently cook things, even though you have a fire that's pretty hot. Be the master of your own domain, as someone in Seinfeld would have said. Okay, I'm gonna say that this pork chop right here is done. All right, now we got our thinner pork chop, and this we're gonna keep on one side for a little bit longer because you only wanna flip this once. When we're dealing with foods that are thinner, we don't wanna spend too much time flipping it back and forth because it won't build enough color, and the more and more we flip it back and forth, it's gonna keep cooking, but we're not gonna get that nice crust that we're looking for. The other thing that you guys have to remember with the last pork chop, it already had time to kind of warm up that fat because it was reverse searing. Right away was starting to drip, while this one, it's gonna take a little bit of time. Another way that you can tell it's ready to flip is, one, you can peek underneath, but you also can think about like what's starting to render, and how you know it's rendering is when that fire underneath starts acting like that. So use all the different cues that you got, because we can't really use a thermometer for something like that right now because it's so thin. And I don't know if you can tell, but the color of that pork is starting to change. It's a little bit halfway. A lot how you see a lot of people talk about how to cook fish, especially things like salmon. You start to see that color change kind of going up and up and up, and you want to flip it before it goes all the way to the top, because if it does, it's overcooked. Man, that kind of stinks. I feel like I'm not giving this one a fair chance because it's not laying flat. It's not going to get quite as much as the color that I want in that backside. But overall, not bad in the color right there. At this point, I'm not going to do it, but one thing you can do is make a cut right here to make it lay flatter, kind of like you would, or you've seen people do with like bologna sandwiches, and they cut those slits in there so it can lay flat so it doesn't cup up like that. Give it a little flare up right there to finish it off. Beautiful. We're good. Pull it off. Ooh, buddy, look at this freaking pork chop. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so this pork chop had some time to rest, and man, look at that beauty. Got a pretty good looking rib there as well, because it's a 2-bone chop, so you can kind of get that meat in between there, and that is going to be really good. This slice right here is probably going to be the money slice. It's got that good mix of like that fat cap right there, and this piece down here that's super juicy. And that piece down here, this is kind of like the fatty end of like a brisket or something like that. You see, it's a very nice piece of pork there. You can see it's still kind of pink, and it's not, I mean, it could be from the smoke, but that's more so kind of the edges right there, that thin little pink right there. But really, this is because this was cooked to that 135 and finished, so like we can get that real temperature accurate pork that we're looking for. You know, I remember growing up all my life saying that this has got to be cooked all the way. Nah, man, this is the way you want to do it. Just in case you weren't able to get it from up there, that's what I'm talking about, guys. Played this up like it's some sort of fancy restaurant right here, and that is beautiful. Dude, look at that freaking fat cap. Delicious. All right, guys, so let's get that one piece out. I pull aside a taste. So let's start with that bottom section where the loin is, and it's supposed to be dry, but that's so good. Here's that bite of that fat cap. You know, sometimes when you eat something, it just makes you laugh because it's so good. Yeah, that's just what happened right now with that little laugh there. Before I forget, we got a pork chop here. Just because of the thinness of the steak, right? It's not going to be medium or that 145 that we're looking for, but let's give it a taste. It's still really good. It definitely doesn't have that sweetness of that pork like we get from there. He cooked it well over what it should have been, but again, cooking it super fast still allowed it to have a pretty good texture. But if I had a pork chop of this one that was as thick as the other one, I'm pretty sure it would be pretty tight. But really, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just the flavor. The flavor is way different. I would say even like the fat that's in this one, it just tastes like there's added fat to it. While the really thick pork chop, the fat cap, even though it's quite thick on there, it eats like a piece of meat because the fat is really sweet.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. It's okay, huh? No much style. It's like 12:35. I cannot believe it. I'm eating at 12:35.
so good.
You sure you don't want to try? You're gonna regret. Just one piece?
This is really good.
Thank you.
Oh wow, you seasoned it well.
I cannot stop. Like, you have to finish all this. Oh my gosh, I cannot.
You have to try that piece. That's this Hungry satellite piece right there.
Is this supposed to be fat part?
Yeah, but it tastes like gogi, right?
I know it.
Yeah.
How is that possible? I think we're used to cheap fat, where it's just when you put it in, it's like mushy.
Mm-hmm. But it's crunchy, right? It
Yes,
has
exactly. It doesn't taste
It's
like.
like an apple, like that crunch. Too.
Yes, this one does.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna finish it.
Please do. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Just kind of comparing, you know, same cut but from different places. But at the end of the day, regardless of the grade of the product, you know, it really has to do with how the animal that is being slaughtered is being taken care of. So my challenge to you guys would be to start to explore, try to find those local places that sell really high quality products, because I think it is worth it. And I'm not saying every single time you look for a pork chop that you should be looking for the most expensive one, but you know, at the end of the day, I think it is nice to have something like that and to share it with a bunch of your friends. I also want to use this video to shout out any local places that are around you. Again, the place that I go to is in Forza. So if you guys are in the northern suburbs of Chicago, there's one in Skokie, and also I think the original one is in Glenview. So wherever you guys are from, and if you guys go to a local butcher shop that's close to you, tag them down below in the comments, share the location. Let's help each other out and figure out where's the best place to get really, really high-end product from wherever we are. So that's the end of this video, guys. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share this video with your friends. And again, if you guys haven't clicked that bell notification to let you know when the next video will come out, please do so. And again, a like and a comment goes a really, really long way. It really helps this channel to grow and get other people who haven't seen my videos before to be part of this community. So my challenge to you, again, is to like this video and also comment below, where do you get your product from? So that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.